Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the Ewok TV movies, the 80s cartoon, and beyond.
Today we are discussing Ewoks, The Battle for Endor, which was originally aired on television and would be re-released theatrically for a brief time in Germany.
Germany. Really? Interesting.
Germany,
well,
yes.
For the first time here on This Endorian Life,
punishment.
Steve and I didn't watch this alone. We watched it with our old friend Crystal Storm. Crystal, welcome.
Thank you. I should be saying I hate you.
You should be a little angry.
Like just a little bit. Just a little.
Yes, Crystal and I mean, we have some shared history with another battle, and that's of course Battlefield Earth. For the now retired podcast, Three Nice Things, but you can still find the episode on YouTube, and I encourage you to do so because Crystal, Eric, and I suffered through that movie, and we recorded an episode, and if you don't listen to it, then that hurts the three of us.
It does.
All that for nothing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That was...
It should be the most listened to podcast.
Honestly... Steve, you dodged a bullet not being on Three Nice Things because...
You really did, Steve.
It was one of those things where it was like, oh yeah, we'll watch a bad movie. Like, this will be fun. But like, no, it's just bad. Like, it's only bad.
Yeah.
So
watch a
there
bad
were
movie
very few that I watched.
Like Mitchell?
That I wasn't like, I hate everything.
Yeah.
That were just like, oh, let me just make fun of a bad movie. Most of them I were just like, I'm like, God, this is the longest 90 minutes of my existence.
Yes.
Well, I've seen it, and I'm glad you didn't ask me to watch it because I probably would have been like, nope. I'll just be on your podcast and talk about it.
The weird thing is that I actually kind of liked the book, but we don't have to get into that. We don't have to get into that now because we have a beautiful piece of Star Wars history right here.
Vintage.
Before us today. Last episode in Caravan of Courage, I was confused because all the things that I remembered from the Ewok movies didn't happen in it. And I was like, well, I must just be remembering Battle for Endor. And that's true. I feel like maybe I had never seen Caravan of Courage, at least all the way through, but I definitely have seen Battle for Endor. And this is the one that stuck with me, the one I remembered.
I remember the end of this one.
Okay.
But most of my memories are of Caravan of Courage.
Okay, so the total opposite. What about you, Crystal?
Yeah, total opposite.
Caravan of Courage isn't ringing a bell, but that doesn't mean I hadn't seen it. Like,
Okay.
I hadn't thought I'd seen this movie either until I started watching it.
Okay.
You'd
And
remember
then,
it.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like, I had this complete blank spot in my memory of ever watching this, but scenes were just familiar.
Yeah.
You know, some of the dialogue and hearing the characters talk and stuff, it's just one of those, you're like, oh no, I have seen this. So I was probably like super young at some point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you really can watch Battle for Endor without Caravan of Courage. I mean, we have character carryover, but they are about as different from each other as Return of the Jedi is from Caravan of Courage. You know, like it's just a complete change. You don't have the Burl Ives narrating as he did in Caravan of Courage.
Oh yeah,
and tonally, it's just completely different. So it was a weird switch. But let's take a look at the cast and crew. So this movie was written and directed by a brother duo, Jim Wheat and Ken Wheat, who apparently did not get along well with Wilford Brimley. And so Wilford Brimley's scenes ended up being shot by the second unit director, Joe Johnston, who would go on to direct Jurassic Park 3 and many other things. Long storied career there. But the Wheat brothers seem to find their most successful, and I'm using that word very lightly, most successful opportunities writing sequels. They wrote The Fly 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Birds 2, which is not a thing anyone needed. It Came from Outer Space 2, and The Stepford Husbands. So
Stepford Husbands, okay.
So
Wait, there is a Stepford Husbands?
I learned that today.
I am so mad right now that Hollywood keeps giving these guys money to make these sequels.
Well,
like, I am upset.
Didn't they do Pitch Black?
Yes.
I've got to Google Pitch Black. I'm like, wait,
I know,
what,
Pitch
am I
Black,
thinking about, like,
the
something
Chronicles
different?
of Riddick. I saw that in the trivia section saying that it was foreshadowing a character, and I was just like, yeah,
that's very bizarre.
That's not
you have
what
to
I
take
thought
IMDb trivia sections with a grain of salt, I feel like.
You sure
I
do.
am very curious about this foreshadow. Now I'm just curious. I'm like, what in this movie foreshadowed?
The only thing they have in common is they were marooned on a planet. That's literally it.
Well, that's something.
You can draw so many threads from
I mean, There are so many other movies that are way more similar to Wilford Brimley's character.
I know.
You could draw more into like where the red fern grows.
Hey, you know what? There's a sequel to that. I wonder if the Wheat Brothers wrote it.
I bet you they did.
George Lucas still gets a story credit here, and apparently during shooting he would stop by the set multiple times, and he would be like, "Well, why don't you shoot a scene like this?" And so he does have a little bit of say in this, but is not all that involved. The score was once again by Peter Bernstein. Let's look at the cast. So we do have several returning characters. Let's start with the human characters first. We have Eric Walker returning for a hot minute as Mace. Guy Boyd comes back as Jeremit, the father. We see the mom, and we'll get into how we see the mom, but you never see the actress. So that actress was probably like, I'm going to peace out on this. I don't think I'm going to come back for...
Man, the first one was so successful.
Ewok 2.
Right there. That's called.
Yes. We have Aubrey Miller back as Sindel, and after this, she was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and never act again. I will say, she is a more compelling protagonist than Mace in the first movie.
Absolutely.
Even though she is like 3 years old.
Is she really that young?
She seems aggressively young to me.
She's gotta be like 5 or 6.
That's
or
what I would put like kindergarten age.
I was trying really hard not to critique her because I'm like, you were all of like 6 years old, but I'm like, well, Drew Barrymore was also young and she gave me, but I was like, no, let me stop.
Yeah.
Let's see. Aubrey Miller, she was born 1979. So this movie came out in 85. So she was 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6, 5 in the... So yeah,
and 6.
Very little.
Wow.
We have new characters here. So we have Wilford Brimley. Check your blood sugar. You check it often. You guys remember those diabetes commercials that Wilford Brimley did for years? That's got diabetes. You check your blood sugar.
They were foreshadowing those.
The diabetes commercials. Other genre work from Wilford Brimley includes the movie The Thing, Cocoon, as well as Cocoon: The Return. We have...
movies. You'd get that expression off your face right now, Nick.
Are you a Cocoon fan?
Those are great movies, and I will watch them again before I watch this again.
Even The Return? Even Cocoon: The Return is good?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I feel like I need to watch them now with a completely different lens, like my older.
Yeah. Cocoon is a good
Thing.
time. I saw Cocoon recently. I also saw The Thing recently as well. So I guess maybe I'm a Wilford Brimley fan? That's weird. We have Carol Strucken as Tirek. He is probably best known for Lurch in the Addams Family movies. I know him best as Mr. Hom in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Finally, we have Cyan Phillips as Carol? Carol Channing, was it? No, what is the, what's the witch's name?
I always said like Chiral. I don't know. That's
okay.
Terrible. That's probably not even close.
Yeah.
Carol.
Or the Crow.
But this was a year after she did the movie Dune. Like, she plays a pretty prominent role in Dune and then went on to do this, I guess. She was in
the original one.
The original Dune, and she did a lot of The Borrowers, did some voice work for the World of Warcraft games, and this cracked me up because in 93 she was in the movie Heidi, and this movie is essentially Space Heidi. So... I guess she knows what she likes. Ewok cast. So no Logray this time. I always consider Logray sort of like one of the most prominent Ewok characters. He's not in it.
Chief Sherpa.
We do have... That's right. No Chief Sherpa either. We have Warwick Davis back as Wicket, with Daryl Henriquez doing the voice again, as he did in Caravan of Courage. No Logray, as I said. Dan Fishman returns as Deej, Tony Cox as Whittle, Pam Grizz as Shadu. And those are our primary Ewoks for this journey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You said Mason's in there for a hot minute. I saw something that said he's in there for 33 seconds.
That's about it, yeah.
I think in that 33 seconds, I think he did a better job acting than he did in the entire Caravan of Courage.
I would agree with you on that, and I also think the dad, like the guy playing the father, the one scene he had in this was better than anything they gave him in Caravan of Courage.
Oh, yeah. So, absolutely. All right, you ready? You ready for this? All right. All is peaceful on the forest moon of Endor as Sindel and Wicket wander through the woods picking flowers. That silence is broken when a group of marauders attacks the Ewok village. Mace and his mother are killed in the onslaught, and the rest of the Ewoks are rounded up and taken away. Nearly finished with the repairs on the Tawani family star cruiser, the Marauder leader Tarek and his witch Cheryl confront him about the magical power he possesses. Jeremit is killed. Sindel and Wicket are captured. On the trip to Tarek's stronghold, Wicket and Sindel are seen attempting to escape their mobile prison and chased up a cliffside. The Marauders fire at Wicket and Sindel, but their shots miss and start a rock avalanche that rains down on themselves, causing them to fall to their deaths. Thankfully, Sindel and Wicket duck into a small cave before the rock slide seals them inside. They are trapped very high on the cliff face, but with a bit of ingenuity and some random bones and skin, Wicket constructs a glider. Before they are able to take off, the two are attacked by the cave's inhabitant, a large condor dragon. It seizes Sindel and flies off. Wicket hops on his glider and, in pursuit, manages to save Sindel before they both crash down onto the forest floor. Safe at last, they fall asleep inside a hollowed-out tree. In the morning, they are discovered by a very quick little furry creature named Teak. Teak leads the two back to a house where they hope to find food, but find only old junk. Deciding the seemingly abandoned house should be theirs, the actual owner of the house returns. Noah is a grumpy old man who is undecided at the notion of letting Wicket and Sindel stay. Wicket and Sindel discover that Noah is also stranded on Endor and has been there for some time. The next day, Sindel is lured away from Noah and Wicket by a siren that turns out to be the witch Cheryl. Burdened with recovering the child or be killed, she takes Sindel to Tarek's castle, where Sindel is interrogated about the magical source of power he took from Jeremit, which is not magical at all, but is indeed a power source. Knowing nothing about the magic power, Tarek imprisons them both. Noah and Wicket and Teak mount a rescue mission, successfully vaulting the castle moat, scaling the castle walls, neutralizing guards, and sneaking past everyone in Tarek's throne room, and releasing all the imprisoned Ewoks. The Ewoks are discovered during their escape. Blowing a hole in the side of the castle, the Ewoks zipline to safety, but not before Noah discovers the discarded power source. Tarek allows the witch to live if she follows the Ewoks shape-shifted as a crow, but keeps her shape-shifting ring for himself. Gathering his full army, Tarek pursues the Ewok tribe. The group make it back to Noah's star cruiser. Noah installs the power source in his ship while the Ewoks fight back the besieging Marauders. The power is restored, and with the help of the ship's guns, the Marauders are defeated. However, Tarek manages to capture Sindel. Noah trades the power for Sindel, but tricks Tarek, and the two fight each other. Before Tarek can land a deadly blow, Wicket slings a rock at Tarek, striking the magical shape-shifting ring around his neck. The blow causes the ring to burn Tarek into an ash statue. Finally free of the Marauders, Noah and Sindel say a tearful goodbye to Wicket, Teak, and the rest of the Ewoks before leaving Endor in Noah's repaired star cruiser.
Whew.
The end.
That was a lot.
You did great. You did great, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
Listen, right off the bat, there is more plot in this than there was in Caravan of Courage by about 10.
Yes.
So let's just start with a basic, like, how did we all feel about this? Crystal, how did you feel about this movie? You don't like it as much as Cocoon. We know that.
All right, I'm gonna immediately start a fight within the Star Wars universe with saying this.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna be controversial right off the bat. Here's how I feel about this movie. I will watch this movie 1,000 times before I watch The Last Jedi again. That's how I feel about this movie.
I absolutely agree with that. No.
Bold.
I've got some fucking cute ass Ewoks in this. I've got a villain who is like ridiculous. I've got some wholesome family stuff that's taking me back to my childhood. Like, it's a good movie to fall asleep to.
Okay. All right.
Turn it on at night.
Okay.
You feel all great about it or not, but either way, you're gonna fall asleep.
So not a ringing endorsement, but you were moderately okay with this movie.
You know what? I didn't hate my life afterwards. So
okay.
There you go.
All right.
I wasn't
Already
enraged at the Star Wars universe. I was just like,
that's a thing that happens.
It wasn't made for me. It was made for 5-year-old me. It was made for 6-year-old me. It was not made for 40-year-old me. You know?
Right.
But like 90s 5-year-old you,
exactly.
Not like 2020s 5-year. Because I think this movie was way more violent than the first one.
It was.
I don't know. I think this one felt longer because it felt more full.
Okay.
Right? Caravan of Courage, there's like little vignettes of action in between these long drawn out walking scenes, where this one there was the walking scenes in this one had them going through the woods, and then you saw like the puddle in the ground and the footsteps going through the water. I just felt like the cinematography was better, and it felt like a bigger movie.
Yeah.
Felt longer, right? That there was more story developing,
I guess for me, I think just objectively by definition, you can categorize this as a movie. And I think I would argue with someone who categorized Caravan of Courage as a movie, because that's really just more about Ewoks in bad costumes frittering away an afternoon in Southern California.
I'm so glad I didn't watch this Caravan movie. I'm so excited.
You're right. Yeah. No, you're right. And that one to me was just a waste of time. I think you can argue like how good this movie was, but I think it was a plot, and I enjoyed elements of the plot. There were characters that I understood what they were doing, why they were doing it. So I feel like as a whole package, this one feels more legit to me than Caravan of Courage.
This felt like a Star Wars movie too. That's the thing.
It was more Star Warsy. I wouldn't say that I enjoyed it necessarily, but I didn't hate it, like Crystal. Like, I didn't end up being like, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. I hate everything. So
this movie is like the Star Trek V of the original Star Trek movies, where you're just like, hey,
I think that's a compliment. I think you're raising this movie up more than it needs to. Let's talk.
So?
I do. But let's talk about this beginning, because I read that George Lucas was fascinated by the story of Heidi. You guys know the story of Heidi, right? Are you familiar with the book Heidi?
Oh, it's a story.
Okay, so the story of Heidi is basically a little girl is orphaned, and she has to go like live in the woods with her grumpy old grandpa who doesn't want to have a kid. This movie is just Heidi, but with space things.
Ewoks.
Is that like an old Disney movie? It's an old Disney movie, right?
I mean, there's a Shirley Temple movie. It's a very old book, but
that's the one
George Lucas was heavily inspired by Heidi when he kind of came up for, what about this? But in order to do that, you have to kill all of the Tawani family. And I just feel like for a children's movie, starting with a little girl, like watching her whole family murdered, is a really weird entry into this. Did you guys, what'd you think of that?
It felt, and you know what? They did it right. They did it, like Steven said, very 90s. Like, if you're a 90s kid, 90s kids are just used to this level of violence in TV shows.
That's true.
Before they kind of like toned it down a little bit. You are. I feel like it was done in like a kid-friendly way. I remember too when I'm listening to like the bad guy's dialogue. He never says to her, like, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to freaking kill you. He says you will be doomed.
Yeah.
Which was very, like, a kid's term for me.
That's true.
And, like, even, I mean, and the actress, the little girl, like, she's not the best. And the dad is, like, can carry no emotional scenes at all. And I've seen him in other things.
He's a very prominent actor.
You didn't like his death hand as it went down? Like, that's such a 90s thing. 80s, 90s.
And I feel like I was that opening scene, like I was analyzing it like too deeply in some moments, because like he's talking to her and she's like, the whole family's dead, and he's like, yeah, I know, but it's gonna be okay. And
yeah.
I know.
Like, okay, yeah, it'll be sure. Like, he just had like, there was just like nothing on his face to indicate that he even liked his wife, that he liked his son, that he cared that they were dead. So it was. I feel like even though like we're looking at this as adults and we're like, God, this is terrible. It's almost like Finding Nemo.
Yeah, that's true.
That was like dark too.
I guess part of it though, part of the problem for me was like it really kind of undercuts the entire first movie, because the plot of the first movie is that Mace and Sindel are separated from their parents who are captured, and Mace, Sindel, and the Ewoks go and rescue the parents. That's the plot of the whole movie, is reuniting this family. So for this one to start by like killing the protagonist from the first movie and the parents that you spent the whole movie trying to rescue is really just kind of like, well, why did we even bother then with the first movie? Like, it's just a weird...
Yeah.
Like, if he wants her to be alone on the planet, then, like, Wizard of Oz this thing. Have the ship take off without her or something, Like, have her be like, oh, I have to go say goodbye to Wicked, and they don't realize that this has happened or something. And then let them come back in the end and rescue her or something. I just feel like there's a way to get her to be stranded on this planet alone without undercutting everything that you did in the first movie.
You're right. I think you don't need to see Caravan of Courage before this one, and I'm interested to see. I wish I could have seen your reaction, Crystal, when Mace died, because it probably was the same as mine. Like, oh, like you have as much emotional connection
to this character at all.
Yeah, no, none at all. And I've seen the movie before, and I was like, oh, he's dead. Like I just didn't care.
Yeah.
It's sad.
There is really weird design changes from Return of the Jedi to Caravan to this. Like the Ewok costumes in Caravan of Courage are pretty rough, but suddenly in this one, like none of the Ewoks have eyelids, which I think is a strange. Like to have Wicket's just like dead glass eyes staring at her wherever she did, I thought was a little weird. Let's talk about Teak. Teak is a new character in this who goes super fast and is just a mischievous little scamp who helps to endear Sindel and Wicket to Noah. What did you guys think of this character?
I love Teak.
Did you? That's your standout?
I did. I like Teak. I like Teak. I did. I like how I thought his and Noah's relationship was great.
Yeah.
I mean, Noah was hilariously stereotypical and overdone, but there was something very endearing about Noah.
Yeah.
Like my little childhood me was like, oh, Grandpa, oh, Santa, like that kind of feeling. Like, and then Teak was just cute. I thought he fit right in with. I mean, because it's a movie. Like, if you love Ewoks and that's awesome. So I think he fit right in with that whole like cuteness factor, and I thought he was an endearing little character.
Yeah, I felt like he was a good addition. Yeah,
they had to, because in Star Wars the Ewoks are the endearing little characters, and now they're the main character. So Teak was perfect because I didn't have anything like that in the first movie.
Yeah,
they needed the droid aspect, right, where the cute little character that does funny things, and that was Teak, and I think he's more. I like him more than the droids from the sequel series.
Even Dio, I love Dio.
Dio was great.
Dio. Oh well,
Dio's great.
I agree.
Come on, Dio had great lines. That's not fair. Teak didn't have any.
That's true. Teak didn't have any lines. No, I think Teak was a necessary addition. I think that was one of the stronger.
Don't you talk about my Dio like that?
It felt very 80s, like this sort of like grumpy old man who has like a cute little sidekick. Like Fraggle Rock, you've got Doc and the dog. Like there's all sorts of things from that time that are like, he's a mean old jerk, but he's got this cute little friend. So,
I forgot about that. That's so.
So that was the thing that happened. I guess I just couldn't really get over the darkness. Like, this would have terrified my son, even in the beginning where they're coming and they're looking for the power source and they're really just like burning Ewoks alive and like destroying their village. Man. I mean, it was yeah.
Did you think that they like raided a Halloween store and just took all the random masks they could and just put those on with like burlap clothing?
I think that's
and that
exactly
was their,
what they did. Yeah,
that was exactly their character, costuming.
Watching this back, I don't remember being like traumatized by this movie, so like I didn't get like triggered. So I'm curious, like, would kids nowadays watching this would actually think like, is it scary? Because like I don't have that. Like, I mean, but I watch plenty of Disney movies now, and I'm just like, how is this a cartoon?
Yeah.
And you think about the cartoons that we actually watched when we were growing up, and you're like, what the?
Yeah.
So like, I don't, like I can't.
Yeah.
I should have my kids watch.
I had a lot of moments here where I was like, this is giving me Return to Oz vibes. Have you guys seen Return to Oz?
Oh.
Yeah. That got dark.
Oh my gosh. That
got really dark.
I mean, that's scary to me today. And I really felt like the Cheryl character was very reminiscent of like the Mombi bad villain from Return of Oz. So I felt like there was a lot of DNA shared there that was like, it's the 80s. Let's scare kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in Star Wars style.
Yeah, right. Sort of. Sometimes.
Sort of. Yeah.
I also kept asking myself as we're watching this because, all right, so they're looking for a power source. They come and they kill the Tawanis. They destroy the Ewok village. And Sindel and Wicket are captured right away, right? I mean, very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very soon. But you know what? The best part about this villain, Nick, he's not even looking for a power source. He's just looking for power.
Right.
Power.
He doesn't know what the powers do.
Yeah.
he just heard the word power, and his stupid little villain mind was like, I want it.
Yeah. I respect the commitment. That's the thing. Yeah. He knows what he wants.
Wanted it so bad, but he didn't care that, like, Jeremit had just finished repairs on the ship, and they were about to
brutal.
take off. Like
when they
instead
tear
of
the ship
removing
apart,
power, they could have literally left the planet. Like so it's
plugged it in.
Yeah,
I think that's the hilarious thing about it. If you'd have just listened to what everybody was telling you and plugged it in,
yeah,
you would have had the power.
You would have been fine. You would have been fine.
I waited to the end of the movie because I was like, maybe like at one point the witch is going to be like, oh yeah, we need this to get off the planet. But
right.
they wanted to stay there,
yeah,
but just have power.
They just wanted to possess power.
And so it was like they knew of it, but they had no idea what it did, and that was bizarre because I guess it came from Noah's friend.
Yeah.
Right. I guess they interrogated him before he died and said that there was power, and so that's where the context of that power got lost.
I would say as far as like the Ewok. Because in the first movie, it's very much about the two kids. You don't really get much characterization from any Ewok, and Wicket is kind of interchangeable with some of the other ones in there. So I did appreciate that this time Wicket was actually a character. I could have done without the weird, like, "Oh, Sindel, oh, let's go," kind of voice that they gave him. I thought that was weird. But I liked that, like, Wicket was a character and had things to do. But I kept being like, so are there just, like, 10 Ewoks on Endor? Because they come and they raid those like 5 houses, and it's like, well, that's all the Ewoks. We're all out of Ewoks now.
Yeah, well, there's that little village. Remember from the first one? There's Wicket's village, and then they do go to like the treehouse city in that movie. So it's just still their little village. So they must be further out from that Ewok city than we thought.
So the Carol character, she is Carol. Every time we say it, we say this name differently.
It's so awkward.
But she's sort of like the henchwoman of Tirok, right? I mean, she's like the muscle. She's the enforcer.
Elvira, is that who I'm thinking? Because that's the vibes that I got from her.
Yes.
And she is like so 80s ridiculous that I
for sure
could not take her seriously at all.
Let's talk about the ending a little bit because because it just goes from like dark to crazy to crazier. I feel like as it keeps going, because Carol is eventually locked in her bird form. I mean, that's kind of how we end with that character.
She's stuck now. She's a bird forever now.
Which is dark, man. If our old friend Eric was here right now, he would pull up some Animorphs, because that does happen to a character in Animorphs. But yeah, so she's strapped that way. Tirok has the power-changing ring or whatever. I mean, that's a pretty baller move, I feel like, taking that ring from her and sticking her in that form. That's a dark twist. I was very underwhelmed by the sort of siege on the Ewoks in the end, and the Ewoks fighting back, because we've seen that play out in such a cool way in Return of the Jedi. I think it was a big mistake to revisit that, because I don't know. In Return of the Jedi, you have like the weight of the Empire coming and like attacking all of them, and they're just like throwing rocks in their faces and gliding around. Here, you have like 7 a-holes in burlap sacks, and they can't
handle it.
It's just
only the 10 guys from the village.
What are you doing?
You don't have the veterans with you, except Wicket, who apparently speaks Common now, which blows my mind. But that's cool.
But that battle. We've seen all that stuff.
Yeah.
And in Return of the Jedi, they had that Imperial squad, or the strike team, excuse me.
There was a lot of weight to it in Return of the Jedi. This just felt like 2 directors who were writing fan fiction.
Yes.
And then got to put their fan fiction on screen.
Just go in a different direction. Just don't touch it. That's what I would say. Just don't do that. So
we could have done without all that. But I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a long, drawn-out battle scene, too. That's what I was very surprised about. I think it was like something like 15 minutes, and I thought,
they had a lot of fun, but that's where all their budget went, right there.
That's where their budget went.
For sure. For sure.
All the shooting and everything, all the special effects from that.
2 directors trying to show off their action scene chops, and we're just like, you are a really important movie too late.
Yeah,
I thought that's for sure. I thought it was like when we find Noah's ship and like we sort of understand what's going on. When we see his partner as just a skeleton in the dungeon when Sindel's trapped. I mean, again, that's kind of intense stuff, but does feel very like of its time to me. I mean, I like the idea of them using the power from the Tawani family ship to power Noah and get out there, but I absolutely hate that Sindel leaves in the end.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about that?
Teak doesn't even go with Noah. Teak doesn't go. Like that there was a couple things that really felt bizarre to me about that final scene.
Yeah.
You know what? That didn't move me. That's how invested I was probably not in these characters. But like, I think I just kind of expected that she would go, that she wouldn't, stay with the Ewoks, and that she would go with kind of Noah instead. Because like Wicket felt more like a friend than like a parental figure, even though like definitely. He's family for sure.
Yeah.
But they were like two kids bumbling along in the freaking woods together trying to, say something. There's the whole scene where he's like, let's go find them. And then the next scene they're picking flowers in the woods to make pies. And I'm like, that's accurate. They're kids.
It's bizarre that left anyway, or that anyone left, right? Because, we kind of established that Wilford Brimley's, or Noah, his friend is dead and gone, and Sindul's family is dead and gone, and it's like, what's the point of leaving now, right?
Yeah, and I recognizing that I'm asking too much by looking for a through line with these two movies, but like, if your goal the first time is to reunite the family, I guess I sort of got the impression that the family was just going to stay there. Maybe I just misread that, but for the second one, like with them gone and everything, it ends with no one is together. Like no one who has formed these bonds or these relationships are together. They just
what they're trying to tell you is that humans need to stay with humans and Ewoks need to stay with Ewoks.
I guess
so. I'm literally reaching.
We don't want to make any more. That's what it is.
Maybe they were just like, you can't have this whole movie about getting to a power source and at the end not use it. Maybe I don't know.
No,
maybe
that's true.
Was the conversation. Like I don't.
That is true, but maybe they could have like powered the Ewok village, or they could have like taken over the castle that the bad guys were in, and like
we know that there's an Empire bunker there because we've seen it. So y'all could have gone in that or something. Like I don't know.
True.
But I think that's a good point, Nick, with the whole family thing. That it's just like, well, he's lost his friend, I've lost my family, and our family is who we make it, right? Like now we're part of the Ewok tribe.
Yeah.
Right, and that's our family now. And they just were like, nope. We're leaving. No more Ewok movies.
I just didn't like
That's it. Blast off the planet.
Yeah.
I feel like that is maybe the thing that I was the most like, what? I'm a fan of like old stop motion. So even though every time it happened, it was like, wow, that does not look real. I still liked seeing it. So like I enjoyed
there was
that.
Good scenes and bad scenes in this one.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Mostly bad.
The bad scenes were in the woods. Those blurgs, right? Which we've seen in The Mandalorian. And when they're in the woods, it looks terrible. I don't know. They tried to like color them green, I guess, to get like the flora and fauna color. But then when they're running, when the whole Tarek's army is running out through the field, and you see, all of a sudden there's horses.
Yeah.
Okay. There's horses apparently.
Right. Yeah.
And the blurgs are running, and I thought, well, that actually looks way better than when they spotlight them alone.
True.
So having them interact with, that army of people looked way better. So good stop motion and just really bad stop motion.
So, Crystal, we usually pick our Ichiwawa moment, which is, the moment that we, I don't know, that we most enjoyed, or the one that like left the most impact, the one that was like, that was the thing for me. So, Steve, you want to call for the Ichiwawa moment?
Man, there were so many Ichiwawa moments for me. Like, so I'm gonna do a dichotomy thing here and go. I'm going to say, because I've already admitted that it didn't affect me at all, but Mace's death was so, I was just like, oh, there's Mace. And then 30 seconds later, he blows up. And I was just like, oh, he's gone. But at the same time, it was just like, oh, man, I didn't even remember him being in this movie. So for me, I was just like, he's in the movie. And he delivered 30 seconds of more compelling character development than he did in the entire Caravan of Courage. And so that's why, like, when Crystal sees him die and I see him die, we're just like, oh, he died. Like, was that Sindul's brother? I mean, there was no, like, no one ever, it's just another human, right? So for me, it's just like, it's my Ichiwaba, because they didn't even have the mother's face. They had Mace die.
Yeah.
And Jeremit just,
the hand out of frame.
The death hand. Like, that's totally like, mid 80s to early 90s.
Well, they can't actually show these people being slaughtered in front of a child, so they do creative things to avoid it. But yeah. All right, so it's Mace's 5 seconds into the movie death.
Yeah.
For the last two, I've been just entranced by the Ewok and their gliders. And I think I got to give it to this too. When Sindul's being like dragged away and like hung by her foot, and Wicket's like, I'm going to glide and rescue her. To me was a fun stop motion. It was action packed. You know, it was like tense. It was like, ooh, get her. So I'm gonna stick with what works and say that Wicket glider scene was, for me, it was a chef's kiss moment.
I'm glad that's in there, because that's when I saw that, I immediately thought of you.
Yeah,
immediately.
And thank you.
When he flew after her, I thought, how is this gonna work?
Yeah, yeah.
He's got to like get under her.
Yeah,
but then like, but he does. But then man, it just was a mess. Yeah.
That's not how aerodynamics work at all.
No, not at all.
What about you, Crystal? What was the moment for you that was really, it crystallized for you?
Seal the deal.
You know what? It's gonna have to be when Noah leaves, like the morning that he lets them stay the night, and then he leaves, and Wicket's all like, "Yeah, we're gonna go find our friends," and then he comes home and he's like, "Yeah, good riddance, even though I'm a super nice guy and I brought them beds, like whatever."
Right, he made them little beds.
Yeah, like all that. And then they immediately come in the door with flowers, and he's like, "Yeah, let's make some pies." You know, that was kind of like it for me, because I had like two emotions there. Like one, I'm just like, okay, so we're not gonna go rescue your family. We're just gonna go make pie. That's
right.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's totally cool.
Just
like
do that.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you got that cute, like wholesome stuff going on. So
It
I'm
is
like,
very wholesome.
oh, they'll be okay. It's fine. Make pies.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, because we talked very little about Noah, like the Noah Sindel relationship, but it was pretty much the bulk of the movie. But that shows you, just how weird and unbalanced this movie is, that we didn't really even get into it that much. But
yeah, well, he didn't.
I mean, he does the best acting in this movie.
For sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Sure.
Well, I'd maybe give it to Teak, but Wilford Brimley is.
Yeah, I think pretty good. You're right.
He's a close second.
It was funny how indecisive he was too, and I think that actually bothered me, that he was just like, oh yeah, okay, we're back and forth now, and.
Yeah. You get right through him every time. Maybe it's because like I know these people in real life, or just like the trope is just like every time he complained, it's literally he's just like, just stay.
Yeah,
it's the old guy who's like, no, don't come into my house, get out. Okay.
Yeah, you're complaining that you like it
after I kicked you out. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got no like even nostalgia for Caravan of Courage. I don't think that I would like seek this out. I don't think, we were talking a little bit last time, like if you'd watch this in a Star Wars rewatch. I don't really think I would, but I can picture a world in which I might watch this movie again.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd have to be with a child.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, if there was the right setting, like somebody had never seen it before and it was like, yes, let's get some pizza and watch Battle for Endor. Like, I would do that. So
it would have to be a child that said to me, "I've never seen this before." Because if an adult comes to me and says, "I've never seen Battle for Endor," I'm going to be like, "Well, you watch it on your own."
Yeah.
And we're going to watch The Old Guard.
What a weird pickup line that would be, just to see someone, I've never seen Battle for Endor.
Want to go back to my place and watch Battle for Endor? Yeah.
Disney Plus and chill, maybe.
Yeah.
Woo!
Let's go. Star Wars vintage. And chill.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Been listening to this podcast and all the non-binaries. Please don't do that.
So apparently, this is not canon. I believe.
No, I don't think so.
It's considered part of the legends.
Yeah.
Which I guess they have said is not.
I co-sign that. I think that's a wise decision. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, they
did
what they wanted.
There's a lot about them signing off a lot of the Star Wars lore as legends that makes me very angry. This is not it.
You're okay with this?
Yeah,
you're okay with this.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
There's a lot of that. I'm just like, wow, Disney, you suck. Another time, but this one is not going to be on my reasons to be mad at Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as with Caravan of Courage, I enjoyed this conversation more than I actually enjoyed the movie. So, Crystal, thank you for joining us for this this journey back to Endor.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This was fun.
Where can people find you, Crystal, if they don't want to learn about Ewoks, but they like you? Where do they go?
Who doesn't want to know about Ewoks? Please go to crystalsimagination.com, where you'll find like everything, the books that I write, all the creative content that I produce, Twitch streams, podcasts, blah, 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 blah. It's all there.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Well, then, everybody, you can join us right here next time as we dive into the cartoon. This is what I've been waiting for, Steve. Getting into the Ewoks cartoon. We're going to start right with Season 1, Episode 1, The Cries of the Trees. Little fun fact, written by Paul Dini of Batman the Animated Series fame. Well, thanks again, Crystal, and we'll see everybody next time. Hey, Star Wars fans, if this bad movie wasn't enough for you, hop over to 902 Here We Go, right here on the Radio Meanwhile Network. Steve's going to join me and Kendra for a special commentary on the movie Sharknado, starring 90210 alum Ian Ziering, just in time for Shark Week. So again, you can find us over at 902 Here We Go, wherever you get your podcasts.
This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. You can find more about this show and others like it at our network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or Twitter at Endorian Life. And please rate, subscribe, and share this show wherever you get your podcasts.